Thanks for listening to another episode of Remake Rewind. I'm Mike, as always. With me, I've got my buddy Alex. How you doing, man?
I'm good. I'm good.
And this week we're doing something that honestly neither of us really care all that much about. But the World Series just happened, so we
I
thought
almost
we would
cared
be
about
topical and do a baseball set of films. We chose to do Bad News Bears, and literally like the day after I watched the 1976, the original version, I was on TCM and I saw Angels in the Outfield because I totally forgot that was a remake. And I was like, fuck, we should have done that one.
Oh,
But we did Bad News Bears.
I'm much happier that we did Bad News Bears.
Oh, you see, I think we're going to be on opposite ends of the spectrum on this one. But what we do here at Remake Rewind is we talk about movies that have been remade. We talk about the original, talk about the new one, and really just decide if the new version added anything to cinema. That's pretty much it. You know, was it worthwhile? Did this need to happen? And that's what we do here.
That's what we do. That's it.
That's what we do.
You nailed
So
it.
yeah, this week we're gonna be talking about Bad News Bears and Bad News Bears from 1976 and 2005. And I haven't seen either of them. I did work at the movie theater when the 2005 one came out. I think I watched like 20 minutes of it on like a break or a lunch, and I was like, I never went back to it. And I never saw the original one, so I was kind of looking forward to it because I know it's a lot of people's favorite movies. Like Kevin Smith says it's one of his favorite movies. Quentin Tarantino says it's one of his favorite movies.
I didn't know
So I
either
was
of
actually
those
kind
things.
of, yeah, I was interested and kind of excited to watch the original one. But I'll talk about it in a little
sounds like
bit.
you were let down. I've seen.
I've got some things to say. I definitely think we'll get into it. But have you seen either of these before?
Yeah, I've seen both of them. I definitely saw the original in theaters. But I think it was sort of overtaken by Bad Santa in the annals.
You saw the
of
original in
memory.
theaters?
I'm sorry, I saw the Billy Bob Thornton one in theaters, but I think it was sort of the memories are sort of overtaken by Bad Santa because this is so clearly a precursor to Bad Santa.
Well, what's interesting is so when we get into the newer one, but the two of the three writers, so one of the original writer got credit because obviously the story is very very closely the same. So yeah, two of the writers on the new one, Glenn Ficarra and John Requa, are writing partners, and they actually wrote both of the Bad Santa's movies. So there you go.
Cool. I'm looking at your synopsis.
Shh. But yeah, what's your history?
Yeah.
Obviously you'd seen them before. You liked them?
I remember enjoying it for the most part. I think I remember more about the Billy Bob Thornton one. I kind of the Walter Matthau one was like coming back to me as I was watching it. Like I knew I had seen it, but if you had asked me any questions about it beforehand, I wouldn't have been able to tell you anything. So I was familiar with them, but it was a little bit like watching new movies.
The only thing I knew about the original one was that Jackie Earle Haley was in it as a kid.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
When we did RoboCop the first time with my friend Dustin, he mentioned, he's like, oh yeah, the ugly kid from Bad News Bears is in it. And I was like, and he apologized. He's like, that was a really mean thing to say.
I don't think it's correct either. I don't think he's ugly in this.
No, I don't think so either. He's just like a regular kid.
Yeah.
But do you want to summarize the first movie or the second one?
I mean, I'll do the first one, I guess. I'm going to emphasize that I'm reading your copy here. It's funny, so I'm going to do it, but it's not how I feel. The Mighty Dick. Let me take it.
Mighty Dicks. Oh, you got dick on the mind. Okay. Freudian slip. It's okay, bud.
Yeah.
It's 2021.
Freudian slipping in.
It's all good, man.
The Mighty Ducks, but 16 years earlier and worse. Former minor league baseball player Morris Buttermaker is paid to coach a team of no talent, crass, and delinquent players. The team is awful, so he brings on ringers Amanda, who might be his daughter, and motorcycle punk Kelly. Does this ragtag group have what it takes to take on their rivals, the Yankees? No, they don't. They lose at the end. Spoilers.
Yep.
I mean, that's pretty accurate. I think there's a definite bias in that synopsis that I don't particularly agree with.
Where is okay, so other than the first sentence, the Mighty Ducks, but 16 years earlier and worse, everything is 100% accurate. And I didn't put any spin on that.
Hold on,
the first sentence.
She's not might be his daughter. She is not his daughter.
The it's not 100% clear. They just say it's one of his ex-girlfriend's daughters, but
Also, it's not
definitely
about
implies
Mike. It's not about whether or not you're right when they say, "Do they have what it takes to take on the Yankees?" No, they don't. That's factually correct, but you're still undercutting them and belittling the filmmakers and the team, frankly, by the way that you use your language.
I'm just gonna preface,
and I know
this,
that you know that.
So what's funny is the newer one, and we'll get into it, is more like what I thought this one was going to be. Like, I have heard of Bad News Bears my entire life. That it's a common expression. So I kind of expected this movie to be a little bit more crass and everything. And the kids were crass, but like Walter Matthau was actually like, yeah, he was a drunk, but very early on in the movie, he was actually kind of sweet and endearing and cared.
Yeah.
And so it just wasn't what I expected. I expected it to be a little bit more gruff and rough and honestly more crass than it was. And so I think it was just definitely not what I expected.
I think you're right about Walter Matthau. I think his he really turns the corner on being into helping these kids out very quickly.
Like the first game, like as they're losing, like he really does, like it's not even like he's embarrassed. Like the first game where they're losing a lot, he like wants to call it, but then like he immediately is like, I'm going to teach you guys how to be a better players. Like, I'm the coach, I let you guys down. And he's like very sincere and earnest. And this is like the first 20 minutes of the movie where he's like, he turns around really quick.
I think what's interesting about that is that happens really quickly, which is kind of a curveball, no pun intended. But then also later in the movie, he becomes like the other coach where he's pushing the kids too hard, which I don't think needs to exist in a movie like this. So that's kind of interesting that it ended up going there.
And it's funny because I'm going to compare this to Mighty Ducks because for our generation, the Mighty Ducks really is just the hockey version of Bad News Bears. Sure. And you have Coach Gordon Bombay does the same thing in both the two movies that he's in. He starts off as kind of a dick, and then he's good, and then at the end of the movie, he's like, "I need to you guys need to win. We're in the championship game. I've got something to prove." And then he lets off the gas a little bit. It's like, I'm going to be a good coach and fun again. So obviously a very similar formula. Mm-hmm. Obviously the big difference is in this, and it makes sense for being a 70s movie because everybody was depressed in the 70s. They lose at the end.
Well, I have two things to address there. Yeah, I think, you talk about him suddenly caring about the team and then having to overcome being seduced is the wrong word, but wanting to win so much that it's not fun for the kids anymore. So that's like two turns, you know what I mean? Yeah. And I feel like these sports movies, the coaches usually get one of those. It's either one or the other. So I think it's interesting that this movie does them both. It's like you said with Mighty Ducks, he only does the one, right? Like he's never.
No, he does two. He's a dick. He's a huge dick at the beginning of the movie. No, in the Mighty Ducks,
maybe the first
he's there
one. Yeah, you're right.
Even the second one, the second one, he's good and then goes bad and then good again. Okay. The first one, he's a dick, then he's good, and then he's a dick again, and then he's good again. Because he's a dick at the beginning, and then he figures out, I need to be a good coach, and then they start winning, and then they get to the championship game where he's going against his old coach. So he has that chip on his shoulder where he needs to beat his old coach. So he starts to become a dick again, and then he's like halfway through the game when they're losing, and they're like, "You're a dick, Bombay." And he's like, "Oh, you're right. I am a dick. Charlie, go out there. I'm trying to bang your mom. I'm going to let you take the game-winning shot."
Which Walter Matthau doesn't go as far as, but Billy Bob Thornton sure does.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm feeling like maybe we need to rewatch Mighty Ducks. But the depressing 70s ending, I think, is I don't know. I didn't feel like the ending of this was depressing. No,
it's bittersweet. Like it's depressing because they lose, but I think it's obviously came a long way, and I think it's like more
than 60% happy because they came together as a team and they're ready to get to it next year, and they came so far. When you say depressing 70s ending, you make it sound like it's Taxi Driver or something.
Right. Well, I mean, the more like Rocky, where you expect them to win. Like most of these sports movies, they come through in the end and they win. It's pretty rare where you get one where they lose. You have the first Rocky and you have this movie.
Sounds like a pretty interesting subversion of expectations, Mike. Sounds like you might have actually liked it.
No, I honestly didn't. I thought that I didn't think any of the baseball was all that interesting. Like I didn't think that there was really anything in this movie for me that unfortunately I hadn't seen before. Now, granted, I saw movies that were heavily influenced by this, but there was nothing in this movie that I felt I hadn't seen before. Which isn't fair. It's not fair.
Yeah, it's sort of a Dune syndrome, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. Yeah.
Except,
So yeah,
except Bad
the
News
new
Bears
Doom.
doesn't have Timothy Chalamet.
No, it does not. It should have.
Well, listen,
He could have been Lupus, the scrawny kid who's the worst.
fucking lupus. I don't know, man. I enjoyed it. I think Walter Matthau, is fucking great and is just like charismatic and interesting to watch. I think he's a good enough actor that I bought the turn that he cared about the kids, both of the turns, I guess. I think the crassness was
The kids were more crass than he was. Like he had a few little
I'm just talking
jokes,
about
like,
general crassness.
yeah.
And also him just like being shitty to kids. No,
Told the fat kid
worked
not
for
to
me.
jump in the pool. He's like, "You'll flood the San Fernando Valley."
Yeah, that shit's great, man. I thought that was really fun.
I did laugh at that part.
Should we talk about how crass the kids are for a second?
Oh, the kids are using racial slurs like left and right.
Yeah, there's a big old N-bomb in there.
There's an N bomb. There's an F bomb. There's Spix. I don't even know what the bomb is for that. The S bomb.
Yeah,
I don't know, dude. Like they use all the slurs multiple times over and over. And what's funny, this movie came out before PG-13 was a rating, so this was PG, and it's way more. It's way worse than the new one, which is PG-13.
It's like the Jaws of baseball.
Yeah, I mean,
he also said the fat kid can play third and short at the same time.
Yeah. The only things I liked were like when they were making fun of the fat kid, which is terrible because like that's not okay.
He was such an asshole though.
He was an asshole. Like he was just like not doing what he's supposed to. He's like, "Oh, you're just picking on me because I'm fat." He's like, "No, I'm picking on you because you're not fucking getting the ball like you're supposed to."
Yeah.
It's a bunt, idiot.
Engelberg, that's a bunt. You got to pick it up and throw it to first. See, we're laughing about it. We're having fun. You had a good time.
Literally, it was just those parts that I liked. What's crazy is this movie, just from a legacy standpoint, it had a sequel that came out a year later with
Japan,
some
right?
of the kids returning. Yeah, no, the sequel, they go to Chicago and go to like a baseball tournament, and then Jackie Earle Haley is now old enough to have a van, so he drives them all cross country, and then they meet his dad, and his dad is the coach, and then the next one they go to Japan.
They meet Jackie Earle Haley's dad?
Yeah.
Jackie Earle Haley's dad was the other coach though, right?
No. So he gets his dad.
That's just the Billy Bob one? I thought it was this one too.
Wait, is he Billy? No, they're not the same. No, that's not his coach. Is not his that's
the
not
coach
his
of
dad.
the Yankees is not his dad.
No, it's not.
I thought he joined the Bears.
No, he used
partially
to,
despite them, despite his.
Well,
dad.
no, he did to spite the guy, but it's not because he's his dad.
But he is
It's
his
Kelly
dad
Leaks.
in the
He's
other
not. No, it's still Kelly Leaks, and then the coach's name is Bullock. It's not his dad.
Okay.
The other kid. So the pitcher is the son. The pitcher who starts to throw the game.
That
No, I'm talking about
that he fucking slaps in the face and knocks down.
Yeah. Him. I thought you were talking about Jackie Earle Haley's character.
No, I was. I really thought that.
Yeah, no, Jackie Earle Haley is not the son.
Okay.
They're not related by any stretch of the imagination. So the coach in both movies is Roy Bullock. Jackie Earle Haley's Kelly Leaks.
I mean, listen, Mike. If your argument is hinging on them having different last names, I got bad news for you.
And the fact that they're not father and son,
Okay.
and there's nothing in the movie that says they're father and son. In fact, like he goes out of his way to be like, this is a little delinquent and he's not allowed to be here.
I thought maybe it was his son from an estranged mother.
No, he's just a piece of shit kid.
Well, listen,
causing trouble with his motorbike.
Maybe I'm just imagining things.
You definitely is.
Anyway,
any events in this movie you really want to talk about? Because I mean, it is a pretty formulaic, at this point, a pretty formulaic sports movie. The team sucks. The coach is kind of figures it out. They have fun. Then there's pressure on at the end, and then they get to the big game.
Well, I'll tell you what. Let me just get through some of my notes here. I thought it was funny that all the coaches and stuff were like 70s guys. Like they were just the dudes that you think of when you think of the 70s.
Yep. I think that's fair.
I think you were going to mention that this is written by Burt Lancaster's son and partially based on Burt.
Yeah. And then he also wrote The Thing. He wrote 3 Bad News Bears movies and The Thing.
That's fucking awesome.
That's insane.
That's the career I want.
But that's it. Those are like his only writing credits. Like that is it. Still pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's
but
awesome. In this movie, we see people drinking beer at Pizza Hut, and I wish that was a world that we still lived in, even though I don't eat Pizza Hut.
no. What's crazy is like he's drinking beer throughout the whole movie, and we'll get into it. But in the new one, he's drinking non-alcoholic beer the whole time because of the rating system.
Right, but he's also pouring liquor into it.
He's pouring liquor in it, which was apparently okay for some reason. But in this one, he has like 21 different varieties of beer he drinks throughout the movie.
Yeah.
It's always a different beer.
I
thought that was pretty cool.
I thought the Hank Aaron story that he makes up to the kid that's up in the tree was very sweet.
Yeah, I actually liked that part too. And
this movie's got a lot of heart.
There is some heart to it. Like there is. Like it's not a bad movie. It's just we've come 50 years from outside of this movie now.
Sure.
And there's been so many good sports
movies. It's hard to evaluate in 2021 if you didn't see it when you were younger.
Exactly. And I think that's a big... I am being a little unfair because I didn't see this movie until 55 years after it came out.
Yeah.
But it's... We'll give it an asterisk for me. But like, I didn't enjoy... Like, I'm not going to say... Like, I laughed maybe 2 or 3 times throughout the movie. And the rest of it, I was just like, this baseball isn't interesting.
I genuinely had a solid laugh every 5 minutes or so.
So I'm glad you enjoyed it, but it was like whatever.
We'll get to... I have a few more of these. We'll get to this more in the next one. But there were so many fucking blonde kids in this movie.
Fucking blonde kids.
It was like a little Aryan Nation baseball team.
Yeah, dude. I got one other positive thing I just want to get out there since I was just reading my notes. I did like how Jackie Earle Haley's character Kelly kind of like swindled Amanda into a date. Like he lets her Buttermaker sends his surrogate daughter kind of thing to go get the kid to play on the team, and so they're playing air hockey and she scores 3 points pretty easily. Like he looks like he's trying, but she scores, and so she's like, if I win, you join the team. And then he's, if you win, like you get a date. And he just smiles. And then she like walks out and she's like, he's not going to join the team. I lost.
Yeah.
I did like that. And he had a really good spot. But I love Jackie Earle Haley. I think he's a fantastic, underrated actor. Even as a kid, I thought he did really well in this.
I like to imagine that this movie is sort of Rorschach's origin story.
Oh, it would be really tame compared to what his actual origin story is.
How about all these old women doing ballet?
Yeah, that was weird.
Right? What were they doing? They're just doing ballet with a 12-year-old?
I don't know. I do want to say the child actors in this movie were significantly better than the actors in the remake.
I don't know. Tatum O'Neal was not good.
No, she wasn't great, but some of the other kids, like the Lupus, I thought was fine. The kid who wants to fight everybody,
Tanner
was pretty good.
I think there were some. Sorry,
I was just saying. I think the caliber was a little bit better. The kid who was on the Yankees, who like fucked up on purpose to give them a chance, was pretty good. So.
I think it was pretty evenly split. I had another good Engelberg rip.
Go.
Says
hit it.
Oh, no, it's not Engelberg. I'm sorry. It's what he says to the other coach. He says, get back, or to one of the parents, sorry. Get back in the stands before I shave off half your mustache and shove it up your left nostril.
Yeah, that was all right.
I like. Maybe it's just Walter Matthau's delivery. I can't,
Walter Matthau is a fantastic, charismatic act. Like, I enjoy him. I thought he was fine. I think to me is just like this movie, knowing about it and hearing about how fantastic it is and how it's this sports movie that's like crass and everything. Like, I just expected so much more from it. Like, my expectations were too high for what this movie was.
Well, maybe you'll go back with lower expectations in a few years and have a better time.
Nah, I won't rewatch this.
The last thing I was going to say was I feel like it was this movie's like a good emotional time capsule of how insecure adult men in the 70s were.
Oh, for sure.
Like completely, like Buttermaker is a perfect example. Completely unable to say he's sorry or like voice his emotions.
No, like he clearly wants to be part of Amanda's life.
Yeah,
and that's where it's like that implication. Like obviously something happened with the parents or his relationship with her mother And
I can tell you what
like
happened. He's a piece of shit and a drunk.
he is. But like the connection he has with her, and he, obviously from a young age was teaching. I honestly think it's very possible that like he is her father and came in and out of the picture multiple times, and they just didn't tell her. But I could have totally seen that twist coming at the end and be like, I'm your daddy. I'm sorry, baby. I'm gonna buy you all the jeans that you want, because she really wanted jeans. The only reason she joined the team was he's gonna pay for her jeans and her modeling classes and her ballet, which I don't understand. Like, he is a pool cleaner, and apparently not a very good pool cleaner, and not that successful. And he's getting paid to do this, but he is paying for all these things. Like, how much did he get paid to be the coach of this team that he could justify buying all this stuff?
You're thinking about it. 2021 money, buddy. It's at 70s.
That's true. That's true. But this is also the 70s when inflation was crazy, man.
I think it was still probably easier than now.
Yeah. All right. We'll get into our next segment. What have you been up to, bud? And then we'll move on to the 2005 remake.
Yeah. Was that your official intro?
Yeah. What have you been up to, bud?
There it is. Let's see, man. Buddy? I watched HBO's 4 Hours at the Capitol.
Oh, okay.
You can guess what that's about.
No. What is it about? Is it about letters? Big ones?
It's about January 6th. It's like an in-depth documentary that just covers the whole day. It's pretty good.
Antifa did it, right?
Yes.
Is that the reveal at the end?
Antifa was responsible.
Got it. Thank you, man.
It's just, if you think about Dune and the Harkonnen siege of whatever the city is
Antifa
called.
Did that too?
It's just like that, but at the Capitol.
Got it.
According to the next movie that I watched, yes, Antifa did that. After I got into the conspiracy theory nutball fucking documentary mode, I decided to watch Q Into the Storm, which is also on HBO.
Ugh.
Which I liked even better. It's very well done. Yeah, there's nothing to say about it. Just it is what it is.
Yeah.
It's a really interesting like exploration of the history of 8chan and 4chan and
right.
2chan.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. So I recommend it, but it's a thing.
It's in my list, but I just can't. It's just too new still. Like,
Yeah.
I just can't. I'm not far enough removed for it, and I'm still arguing with these fucking idiots on social media every day. So it's really hard for me to like watch anything about this.
Yeah, I've lowered my my arguing with these people. I kind of don't engage anymore. But I guess I am still like consuming a good amount of it from TYT or the David Pakman show.
Right.
But it helps not to interact. Actually, that's not true. I'm on TikTok a good amount. There's plenty of bozos on TikTok doing that stuff. Anyhow,
like, I don't spend hours a day, but if I see stuff, like, I will limit it to like 1 or 2 comments in a thread in a day, and that's it. But I used to do it all the time.
I know, it's hard not to. I'm guilty of it too. I watched Swiss Army Man for the first time.
I've been meaning to watch that, but I just never sit down to do it. Paul Dano, Daniel Radcliffe. It's either going to be awful or great.
It's fantastic.
Okay.
Yeah, highly recommend. It's a bit of a. It's going to make you feel things, so it's not like a
good
popcorn, not pay attention thing. What is a popcorn not pay attention thing is Psycho Gorman. Have you heard of that?
Psycho Gorman. I have heard of it.
I think it's on Amazon.
Psycho Gorman. Who's in it?
Nobody noteworthy.
I've seen it. Like, I've seen the thumbnail at least.
You for sure have. It's being like promoted pretty hard. It's I don't even know what to call it. It's like a love letter to schlocky monster alien splatter.
Oh, yeah. I know. Okay, yeah.
Pretty fun. Pretty
I
fun.
remember seeing that.
I had a good time with it. For it. Paranormal Activity: Next of Kin on Paramount Plus. No, not nice. Absolutely terrible.
Nice. No, those movies are all terrible.
That's not true.
I haven't seen any of them.
No, the first 2 are a lot of fun, and if you buy into the conceit, then I think the next few are still pretty okay. But this one was not good. And then I watched The Eternals yesterday.
So did I.
Yeah.
Except I watched it like 3 days ago.
I feel like we might have to do another episode on the Eternals.
No, I definitely want to. Honestly, I thought, and we're actually doing a decent amount of time on this. I thought we would be done with this episode in 20, 30 minutes and then be like, we'll just do a special episode.
Yeah,
we'll
but you
just
secretly love
Patreon.
Bad News Bears. You got a lot to say.
We'll do our Patreon episode right now, but Katrina and I still have to go to the gym. But yeah, maybe later this week we can do an Eternals episode for Patreon. Because
Yeah,
I've got a lot to say about that one.
I think
Like I've 3 or 4 days out, and the more I think about it, there's more things that I've been thinking about. Because like you and I texted a little bit back and forth
yeah,
the
yeah.
other day, but I've had more time to think about it, and I just started like noticing all these other things, and it was like, like in I'm trying to think like the way I want to say it's like in the scene in The Hangover when he's doing all the math and you just see all the connections start going through. I'm just like all these connections started popping up, and they're like the movie what like started to fall apart a little bit more the more I thought about it. But we'll save it for the episode that we'll record soon.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, I'm just gonna shotgun most of these because I got a
won't
new
give you my
job.
opinion on anything.
Yeah, I got a new job that's requiring some travel. I was in London for a week, which was fucking fantastic. But I was on an airplane between the 2 trips for almost 24 hours, so I watched a lot of movies, and then and then I also just had some time off between the 2 jobs, so I've just had a ton of time. So I'm just gonna
Hit us.
shotgun these. Finally got back to watching Black Panther. I really wanted to watch some Chadwick Boseman stuff, but it was raw last year. But I watched Black Panther. Watched Spider-Man Far From Home
Hell yeah.
and Spider-Man Homecoming.
Hell yeah.
Both great. Watched Shaun of the Dead.
Hell yeah.
I watched The Blair Witch Project for the first time.
Hell yeah.
I didn't care for it, but it's fine. Star Trek Beyond. I went back and rewatched that one.
Yeah.
Super fun. It's for whatever reason, it's the start of the newer Star Trek movies. It's the one I've seen the least, but it's also one of my. I like it better than the second one, so I don't know why I haven't watched it as often, but it's good. Revisited Get Out, which is still fantastic.
Hell yeah.
And even more so. I rewatched Kingsman,
Hell yeah.
Tenet,
Hell yeah.
Fury Road,
Hell yeah.
Moulin Rouge. Watched the Rocky Horror Picture Show for the first time ever.
Hell yeah.
It's fun. It's a fun movie. It's stupid. It's terrible, but I get why it has the cult following because it's a fun, stupid movie, but it's really fun. At the movies, I saw Last Night in Soho.
Hell yeah.
Did you get around to that one yet?
Not yet.
Oh, okay. The French Dispatch.
Hell yeah. Haven't gotten to it yet.
French Dispatch was so fun. Last Night in Soho, I'm just going to say, loved it until like the last 10, 15 minutes. But other than that, loved it. And then I also rewatched Dune again.
Did I tell you that I watched it a second time?
You did tell me that. Yeah.
I'm coming around on it. I feel a little bad. I think that my stance on the podcast is maybe not where I'm at now. But it's good. That's like,
I liked it the second time better too.
It's a time capsule of where I was at the time, but I enjoyed it more.
My friend Dustin, who used to be a host on the show, he's watched it like 4 times now, and he's like, every time I watch it, I like it more.
I still like find flaws with it. Like I don't think it's a perfect film.
It's not a perfect movie, but it's a fantastic movie, and it's like from a visual effects standpoint, it's by far.
You got a little Freudian slip.
Both had those Freudian slips. Both of us.
You have to leave mine in.
Yeah. Oh, I wasn't gonna edit it out. I'm not gonna edit this one out either.
Good.
I still really I liked it a lot better the second time, and I loved it the first time.
I hope I'm glad that he's doing the second one. I think he's just splitting the fird book into 2 movies, right?
Yeah, that's what it is.
Okay.
And then he said he
wants to do the third one.
He would want. I think he would want to kind of do what they did with the miniseries, combine the second and the third books, which you could honestly do. There's not a lot that happens in the second book.
Yeah.
Honestly, the second book's kind of boring. The third book's decent. And then like once you get to the 4th one, it gets really fucking weird. Denis Villeneuve was like, yeah, it eventually gets to the point where it truly is unfilmable, and I don't want to go past the 3rd one. So I think he has an understanding. I was actually at and we'll get into our other segment in just a second, but I was actually at Barnes and Noble on my lunch today, and I saw the graphic novel of Dune, and it's part 1, and it cuts off actually even earlier than this one. Like it cuts off like when they crash into the desert. So
yeah, the logical
honestly,
stopping point.
Yeah, he did. Well, I mean, that's not a good stopping point. Oh, they just crashed into. At least this has like
that's a
cliffhanger. Something. Yeah, but at least
it
feels like, at least with this ending, if he didn't get the sequel, at least it feels like, well, he made it to the people, and we know he's the Messiah. We don't get to see that part, but at least there is a conclusion story to an extent. So I get where he ended it. But yeah, I guess I'm summarizing the second one, the second movie, right? You did the first one?
Are we switched back to Bad News Bears? That happened real fast.
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
I've
got nothing.
Yeah, no.
You got more?
Yeah,
more
no.
stuff?
I was finishing up the Dune chat.
Dune chat. Finish it.
My final thought was, I'm glad that he's doing the second one, and I understand he wants to do a third one and combine the second and third books. And I read the same thing that you did, that he thinks the rest of it's unfilmable. I don't know. I haven't read the books. I have learned a lot from you and just from watching YouTube videos and stuff. And I'm interested to see the rest of the story. So I think it would be interesting to see. I know Denis probably doesn't want to do more than a trilogy, but it would be interesting to see it handed off to another, um, filmmaker with a vision for the rest of it and see the rest of it play out.
I think they should go animated. Go do an anime.
I don't care for that. I want it all to stay live action. I don't like when things switch to animated or another format.
They get really bogged down in just like mythology and politics. Like story pretty much goes out the window after the third one.
Sure. I understand that I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm just saying, based on the information that I've gotten, there's things that I'd like to see.
It gets fucking like there's some really fucking interesting shit that gets in there, but it's to get through it, it's hard.
It seems to me like they'd have to bring on somebody like a writer to reinterpret and sort of invent some new things and like condense a lot of stuff.
They would have to condense a lot, but I mean, I'm thinking of going, but like I will probably, whenever the new one comes out again, I'll probably reread the first book again, and after that reread, I will try to get through. I think I'm going to try to get through the rest of the series. My head is not in a place for that chore yet.
Yeah. All right, Bad News Bears.
All right, Bad News Bears. All right, I'm going to summarize this one.
Do it.
It's going to sound very familiar. Give me 1 second. Let me scroll back down to what I wrote. It's the Mighty Ducks, but 13 years later and worse.
Hilarious.
Former minor baseball player. Oh, I didn't even write that well. I'm surprised you didn't catch it. Well, I'm just going to leave it the way I wrote it. Former minor baseball player Morris Buttermaker is paid to coach a team of no talent, crass, and delinquent players. The team is awful, so he brings on ringers Amanda, who might be his daughter? ? And motorcycle punk Kelly. Does this ragtag group have what it takes to take on their rivals, the Yankees? No, they don't. They lose at the end.
I want to take your reading of that and my reading of it and put them side by side and let our fans vote on who did the better line reading.
Nice. Let's do it. We'll put it up there.
I
think we can get it.
And I want to emphasize that you have cut out yourself not reading it correctly when you started out.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. All right, let's get into this one. This one is much worse. I think the acting is worse, and it is more in line with what I thought it was supposed to be. Billy Bob Thornton is definitely a worse person, but he's also like checking out minors.
Yeah,
like,
the creeping on the teenage girls did not age well.
I wouldn't have liked that in 2005.
I mean, I'm not saying you or I would have liked it, but I see how that would have gotten a pass.
You said you loved this movie at the beginning. You're like, I love this movie so much.
Rewind the tape. Find that for me.
This is digital. It's not on tape, idiot.
Remember when you were saying we get louder towards the end of the podcast?
Yep, told you.
Yeah, they open on him creeping on these teenage girls, and I was like, oh, there's not a whole lot coming back from that. Like, I know the trajectory
never thought I'd
of his
say this,
character
but
in
check
this
out
movie.
the ass on second.
That's a funny line. Granted, that's a funny line.
No, I don't think so. I take context into account, but no. Richard Linklater did this movie.
I know.
How is this him? He's done so many fantastic movies. Like, it's because he has like all your
I still
Boyhood
enjoyed
and
this.
your Beyond trilogy, and then School of Rock. I thought this movie was awful from beginning to end. I wanted to.
I had a good time with it.
Fucking. I had to go get up and be a buttermaker and go get a beer and then a second beer just to get through this movie because I fucking hated it.
I do think it's funny. Do you like Bad Santa?
I like the first one.
Okay. I think it's funny that this movie was like, I feel like they made this movie and they're like, oh, I have another idea. And they went and made Bad Santa. And then that one was like way bigger. I feel like this movie kind of gets lost.
Well, this movie, so for what it's worth, we didn't really talk about box office, but the original movie cost like $9 million to make. It made like $32 million.
Mm-hmm.
So, it tripled its budget. It was a hit. It had a sequel the year later, another sequel the year after that. It had a TV show that ran for like 26 seasons. 26 episodes. This one, like Linklater, like was apparently a big fan, and he was like, had it ready to do a sequel, and he wanted to like film it and have it out the following year. But this one cost like 30 million to make. Let's see, 35 million, and it made 34 million, and that's of course without promotion and whatnot. So this movie was a bomb. If you look at the Rotten Tomatoes, the original one had a 97 critic score, 80% audience. This one is 48% critic, 46% audience, which I find surprising because they are so fucking similar. Now this is worse, but to see scores like that surprised me.
I think that's a reflection of Mathau being the name that he was in the 70s, and also just culture, like, I don't know, maybe not liking joking about looking at 16-year-olds' asses.
And also the fact that it didn't do anything new. There's nothing in this movie other than adding a kid in a wheelchair.
Yeah, I mean, they got rid of the little Aryan Nation caucus that's in this group, and it kind of makes sense for this movie. So it gives Billy Bob Thornton some not white kids to bounce off of, and it also is just like more representative of the time that it was made, right?
Right. And also it's Los Angeles. Like,
yeah.
you have to have some Armenian kids and some more Hispanic kids.
Well,
like,
there's two. It's the same amount.
Yeah, yeah. But then having the Armenian kid, like, is especially in the Valley, like there are a lot. Like, I was honestly like, when I saw that, I was like, that actually kind of tickled me a little bit, because I'm like, that's actually a really great addition to add when you don't think of that kind of inclusion. But in Southern California, that makes a ton of sense to have.
It also just like
on
a base level, it made the scenes with the team like much easier to interpret. Like, oh, that's a different kid than this kid. Like, literally in the first movie, they all look like they're Children of the Corn brothers. But it's also nice to have it be a little bit more realistic, for the area that it's in. So that's an improvement,
Yeah. But beat for beat, the plot is pretty much the same, except for in this version, the lawyer who started the whole thing is a woman played by Marcia Gay Harden, and she sleeps with him. Other than that, beat for beat, it's pretty much the same movie.
Yeah, which feels like step forward. They get
and he's an exterminator instead of a pool cleaner, but it's pretty much the same.
Yeah, it's nice to have a woman in some position of agency and authority in this movie, but then she fucks him.
Yeah. And it's only because he is a bad boy, and she's never fucked a bad boy before. Yeah, it's like it totally undermined that.
A little dicey. Where the previous movie has an N bomb, this one has an F bomb. I don't know if the previous one has an F bomb. They definitely say they say pansy and mean it to be a homophobic slur, but this one drops the 3-letter F word.
Yeah, which at 2005 was very, very common. Doesn't make it okay.
I feel like 2005 was sort of where it was like, this is probably one of the last movies to get that in.
I know. I think it went on further, because you look at like Juno came out much later, and Elliot Page has commented that he regrets saying this in that movie. But
what year did that come out?
I think that was like 2008, 2009.
Okay.
And then there was some homophobic stuff in that. But no, I mean, I was in high school still when this movie came out, and I can tell you the F word was still very much in the zeitgeist. Like, I was one of I had a friend who was gay and came out in high school, and I made the decision not to say, like, when we were in high school age, you're a couple years older than me, but your early years of college, people would still say things were gay just to mean stupid.
Yeah.
Like, that's everything. And so like I
remember that, but my timeline's maybe a little off.
Yeah, but but I mean, also once you get into, college, that stuff starts to go away a little bit. In high school, I can tell you gay and that the slur were still every other word out of my friend's mouth at that time frame. So
there's a hard R in here too. Speaking of words we don't say anymore.
Yeah.
In society.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's interesting to hear.
I'm just trying to think, like, I mean, beat for beat, it's pretty much the same. The only thing that changes, I did like seeing Circus Liquor. I thought that, it was fun.
That was cool. I like seeing Chico's bail bonds too. A little nod to the original.
The original, and then they ended up getting the sponsor is the strip club. I did think that was an interesting visual thing where it's each game you'd see more strippers were coming because they were starting to win.
Mm-hmm.
And so every game had a few more strippers in the audience. Like, I thought that was a pretty funny visual kind of cue that they were doing better and they were starting to win.
Yeah. the, the strippers were like fawning over these 12-year-old boys. Here's the
Yeah.
thing we didn't talk about. In both of these movies, all of the initial boys that are on the team look like they're about the same age, right? But then
Yeah.
Amanda, the stepdaughter, and Kelly both look like they're much older, right?
Yeah.
Especially Kelly in the next movie.
Yeah.
Like they look like
Same.
they're like 16 or something, but then they talk about them being like 12, like maybe only a
Yeah,
year
no, they're like
older.
they're in our grade. He's just big, and then like this one they go into like the urban legends of Kelly a little bit more. Like
Right.
there's a little bit more around his mystery when like the coach first starts talking about him, and he's just like, oh yeah, he's done this, and he was arrested for this, and he was arrested for that, but he's actually just our same grade. Um, Really, the only other difference in this movie was the rivalry between the other coach, played by Greg Kinnear in this one.
Greg, that was an
Is
upgrade. I like Greg Kinnear a lot more.
I like Greg Kinnear a lot. I felt like he was wasted in this movie, unfortunately. But the coach has a lot more to do in this. He's more prevalent in the league, and they have some little stuff where they show him being a dick, lying to parents about the players not actually wanting to play more and just wanting the team to win. And
I think. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say like that did flesh out the movie a little bit more,
Yeah.
and it kind of makes the turn of Billy Bob Thornton going to caring about like I don't think like Billy Bob Thornton ever got quite as warm and fuzzy as Walter Matthau did.
Yeah, I agree.
But he had his moments where he was a little nice, but then he'd kind of like give him a little like punch in the shoulder, and not physically, but he every time he'd
There was
say
a
something
physical
nice,
one
he'd
later.
kind of oh yeah, there was, but like every time he would say something nice, he would kind of have to like cancel it out by saying something a little shitty,
Yeah.
where that wasn't necessarily the case with Walter Matthau.
Yeah, I
But
think
having that foil with what's his face, Greg Kinnear, I did think made the twist at the end where he started to really be a dick make a little bit more sense than it did in the original.
Yeah, I agree. I think Walter Matthau sort of errs on the side of being your sweet old grandpa who's kind of a dick, and
Yeah.
Billy Bob Thornton goes the opposite direction, where like he's got a little bit of heart, but he's more nasty.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I think like there's probably a movie, maybe Quentin Tarantino will do it. I think there's an actor out there that can redo this movie and redo Morris Buttermaker and really like get right down the middle. Another pun.
Emilio Estevez.
Oh yeah, he already did it. You're right. I like as far as Greg Kinnear's character is concerned. Yeah, I like having more of him, and I like that he's like a weasel for most of the movie, but he's also like kind of charismatic and like he's a foil to Billy Bob, and we know that Billy Bob's not a great guy, so it makes it feel like, oh, maybe Greg Kinnear's not that bad. Like he has a job and like makes money and actually wanted to coach these kids in the first place. Like how bad
Yeah.
could he be? And then I think we didn't talk about this in the previous movie, but I think that it makes the turn or not turn, the moment where he puts his hands on his son in front of everybody have a little bit more weight,
Yeah.
and like that happened in that last movie, and it was kind of shocking because he just like slapped that kid. But I was like,
But it was
well,
also
yeah,
the 70s.
that guy, that's the 70s, and also that guy's a dick,
You're
and then-
supposed to slap your kid in the 70s.
I know. But and Greg Kinnear doesn't slap his kid. Like it's obviously an accident what happens. Like he shouldn't have put his hands on
Yeah.
the kid, but he also didn't mean to knock him down or even to hit him. He
Yeah.
just like he grabbed him by the shoulders or whatever. I was thinking it's kind of like that moment in or not the moment, but the story in The Shining where Jack Nicholson's character like had previously grabbed Danny's arm because he was doing something and accidentally pulled it out of the socket. It's like he's not
Right.
trying to hurt him. He just like exerted a little bit too much force, and he should have been doing it anyway. But the result
Right.
is definitely not what he intended to do.
Intended. Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, I thought that one was interesting. Do you know anything about the girl that played Amanda?
No, I looked her up. This was her only acting credit. The only other thing that she had was her playing herself in an interview. That was actually going to be one of my points with the child actors, is the quality, because most of these kids didn't go on to do anything other than the wheelchair kid went on to be in the Goldbergs.
Yeah, and he also played Jack Black in Tenacious D and I think Nacho Libre.
Yeah.
So the girl that played Amanda, the young woman that played Amanda, Sammy Kane Kraft, actually pitched in the Junior Olympics.
Oh,
Yeah.
good for her.
And she started a garage folk project in San Francisco called Scary Girls and continued to record music. And she, I don't know exactly, but she knew or at least inspired the guitar player in Haim, band Haim.
Okay. Yeah,
So
I know Haim.
so that's pretty cool. That's like enough for a lifetime right there.
Well, at least she's talented in that regard.
She was talented. She was in the passenger seat of a car when it was rear-ended by a semi-trailer.
No, I thought you were gonna go there when you said, "Do you know anything about her?" I almost said, "Don't tell me she died."
Yeah, she is dead.
Oh no!
And
And then you started telling me all these good things that happened.
Well, listen,
and got me.
there's one good thing.
She was a organ donor.
Yeah, she's not. Let me just say the thing. You're stepping on all my punchlines, guy. God, what are you, a cloud? You're stealing my thunder. Yeah, man, she donated her heart to somebody.
Good for her.
Yeah, except it's Yvonne Payne, wife of Fox Business Network's Charles Payne.
Oh, he's an ape though.
Oh, is he? All right.
Yeah, no, he's like one of the few people since like early on has been like pro AMC. So good for him. He's an ape.
Good. All right. Well, there's a happy ending to that story.
I thought you were gonna go even darker and be like, but it was like idle hand and the heart took over.
Hey, man. Speaking of AMC.
Yeah.
We had a good day.
Yeah, that was good earnings. Earnings report was great. Anywho, so yeah, anything else you want to say about this film?
Billy Bob Thornton looks like Dale Gribble from King of the Hill when he's got his whole outfit on. Like he's even wearing glasses at one point.
Yeah.
There's a lot of product placement in this movie.
Yep.
So I think that's probably where they made some of their budget money back.
Yeah, probably.
Lupus says sometimes bird poo tastes like candy. There's a scene where it's not a mod. It's the Armenian kid is sitting on a bus bench. It's the same scene where the kid's up the tree in the previous one, but he's on a bus bench here and he gives him a nice speech. And the bus bench says, it says been laid off, but the kid is positioned in front of the off. So it says been laid and a question mark, which feels like a weird joke. Like
it is weird. It
has nothing to do with what's happening, but I know it's on purpose.
This is the one joke that I actually really did like in this movie. So when he's talking to the kid, and he's wearing the number 25, and he's like, oh, and he starts naming off all these famous baseball players that wore
not Barry Bonds.
Number 25. Yeah, and then he goes, no, Mark McGwire. He's like, but he's a white.
I thought that. See, I mean, say what you will about Billy Bob Thornton, like that stuff all works for me.
I mean, his delivery was like Billy Bob Thornton's delivery is always good. Like he's always good in the movies, but it's just like, I feel like the caliber of kid actor was way worse than this. Like the guy who played Kelly.
Sure.
In this one
all I'm
awful.
talking about is Billy Bob Thornton's delivery of lines that are kind of awful.
Yeah, like, but I mean, that's what he's always done. Like he's always,
and I still love it.
Yeah. So, but no, I did not care
Kelly
for,
wasn't
for
great.
this movie.
I had a funny thought while we were watching this. I was thinking if they made it again, you know who would play Kelly, right?
Who?
He's all that Cobra Kai.
Oh yeah, probably.
It would absolutely be that kid.
Yeah.
They kept the Buttermaker shove. Walter Matthau definitely shoved a kid in the dugout, which is funny because he was like not impressed with the other coach like slapping the kid, but then he definitely like shoved a kid down the stairs. Not quite.
Shoving's fine.
Okay.
Shoving's fine. And honestly, back then, hitting somebody as long as your hand was open, totally fine.
Yeah, just like how it used to be okay to say the F word or the N word.
Yeah. Ugh. I didn't care for either of these movies. I'm sorry.
I had a good time watching them both, man. This was an okay weekend for me.
I'm going to say this is everything that I say, we talk about, remakes and what they should be. This is everything I think a remake shouldn't be. It didn't do anything unique enough. It didn't update, it updated the casting a little bit to be a little bit more inclusive, but it wasn't like main character inclusive. It was still some of the more side characters. But plot beat for beat was pretty much the same. I don't think the sports stuff, and at this point, 30 years of movie making, they could have done some more interesting stuff with the sports. Don't think it really went there. I just don't think that this did anything better. Like if I had to go back and rewatch one, I would go back and watch the original one. I don't think this did anything that really justified its existence.
Without dying on the hill of this movie, I think it did just enough to justify its existence, to justify being a remake. And a lot of that is due to the fact that it's not a kid's movie, but it's a teenager's movie for sure. And I can't imagine trying to get teenagers in 2005 to go watch Walter Matthau in 1976. So by virtue of its audience, I think I'm okay with it being remade.
Yeah,
I think,
well, they
and
didn't get teenagers to watch it this time around either.
I'm not saying that they executed. I'm just saying theoretically. I understand why it was made, and I wouldn't have, if I was an exec, I would not have said no. And just to put a finer point on that, I don't think that it should be remade now unless there's some dream casting that I'm not seeing, or Tarantino's directing it or something. I think that this one from 2005 looks modern enough that there wouldn't be any difference if you remade it in 2021. Whereas between 1976 and 2005, it feels very different.
The only thing they would be able to do different would just be like there'd be kids doing the backpack dance.
They're on TikTok.
It would be on TikTok. That would be the only difference.
Well, he'd have another job too. He wouldn't be a pool cleaner and exterminator. He'd be a Lyft driver or something.
Yeah. No, you're right. I do want to say, just because we just brought up TikTok, when I was in London, it was so funny how many people I saw doing little TikTok dances in the street in Piccadilly Circus.
It's the wave of the future,
so
man.
funny.
I feel like
It's so many little teenage girls in groups of 3, like trying to prop up their phone on like the subway rail kind of thing, so they could. It was pretty funny. But
I think that the way that all the people on Facebook now are the olds, I think that's going to happen to Instagram in like 5 years. I think millennials are going to be old, and they're going to be the boomers that we think about being on Facebook. And I think TikTok is going to be the dominant social media.
Yeah, probably. No, it's going to be the metaverse, you fool.
Woof. Let's not talk too much about it. We're going to get a in our neck.
Woof is the thing that Ryan in The Office tried to make happen.
Yeah, that's right. Woof. And
Anyhow,
15 things go off.
we're just spinning our tires. We're not getting traction on anything right now. Let's just wrap this bitch up. Where can our listeners find you, man?
I'm going to start with TikTok now, because that's where I'm primarily active. I'm on TikTok at Polishi. That's my last name twice. I'm on Twitter at Polishi. That's my last name once.
The name's so nice, he put it twice.
Yeah, just talk over all my plugs. Thanks. I'm on Instagram at Dyslexic. That's my first name, bastardized. And I'm on Letterboxd at Polishi, and you can follow along with all the movies that I'm watching on there. And Letterboxd, if you're listening, sponsor us.
Yeah, pay us for this free service you offer.
Honestly, just give us a free Patreon account.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
I'd have to pay
on
us.
board with
Just
that.
like fucking switch a button on your mainframe.
There you go. And you can check out everything that's MDXpods related at MDXpods.com, Twitter, Instagram, and the Facebook, all at MDXpods. If you want to check me out and what I'm following, you can go to MDX Mike on the Letterboxd. I need to do it. I haven't done it for a couple weeks. So I really need to start getting back on that, but check it out if you want to. If you want to support the show, you can go to patreon.com/MDXpods and chip in $1 or whatever and get exclusive episodes, early access, and all that jazz.
And we're going to do an Eternals episode, right?
Yeah, we will.
Just for
Post show.
patrons.
Just for the patrons. All you free people, you can fucking not have anything.
Peasants.
Except for the stuff that we do all the time.
No, we love you. Thank you. Please keep listening.
Yeah, thanks for listening, guys. Yep. Like and share.
Like and subscribe. Yeah.
You know, honestly, I never bring up YouTube, but we are on YouTube as well. There's always a link in the description. But check us out there too. You know, people like to comment and stuff on there. But yeah, if you want to, do it on YouTube as well. We're technically on the YouTube.
Maybe if we get enough people that want us to do it and can help us out with it, we can start doing in-person episodes for YouTube.
It's actually really easy to do. I know how to do it. I just won't. Unless there's the demand
Don't tell them that. Yeah.
Unless there's the demand for it.
No, you pulled back the curtain. There's got to be some mystery. All right.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for listening. Bye.